Today's story is one that will leave you in shock and tears. What happens when a powerful man from Yaoundé places all his trust in love, only to be betrayed in death? Let's dive into the story of secrets, power, betrayal, and truth. Welcome to my channel, where real and touching African folktales come to life. Before we begin, please like, subscribe, turn on notifications bell so anytime I drop interesting tales you get notified, and tell us where you're watching from. In the heart of Yaoundé, Cameroon's proud capital city, there lived a man named Ndemba. He was not just any man, he was a chief, a businessman, a politician, and a voice of power in the land. People whispered his name with respect. Some feared him, some loved him. But all knew one thing: Ndemba was not a man to be played with. He built his wealth from the ground. From selling food at the roadside as a young boy to owning hotels, transport lines, and estates across the country. If there was money flowing in Yaoundé, Ndemba had a hand in it. But even with all this power, he was a quiet man. He didn't like noise. He didn't throw parties. He didn't boast. That was what made people respect him even more. At age 45, Ndemba married a young woman named Yaoundé. She was 26, from a coastal town, and her beauty could stop time. Her skin was the color of smooth chocolate. Her smile soft and mysterious. And her voice, when she spoke, even the wind listened. Many wondered why she married Ndemba. Was it love? Was it money? Was it power? But no one could say for sure. Yaoundé kept her heart hidden like a locked box. She followed her husband quietly, supported him in public, and took care of the home. On the outside they looked like a perfect couple. But what people see is not always what truly is. A few years into the marriage, Ndemba started feeling tired. He thought it was just stress. Running businesses, dealing with politicians, traveling, it all took strength. But this was different. He began waking up with burning headaches. He lost appetite. He lost sleep. He even lost weight. At first, he told no one, not even Yaoundé. But then one day, while giving a speech at a foundation event, Ndemba collapsed. People screamed. Security rushed forward. He was rushed to the best hospital in Yaoundé. Doctors ran tests. So many tests. Blood, scans, injections. But nothing came out clearly. One doctor even said, "Sir, your body is perfect. Nothing is wrong." But Ndemba knew something was wrong. And strangely, the one person who didn't seem shocked was Yaoundé. Ndemba returned home, but things grew worse. His businesses suffered because he could no longer manage them directly. He stopped going out. He stayed in bed most days. One night, around 2 a.m., he woke up from his sleep. His throat was dry. He tried to call for water, but his voice was weak. Then he heard something. A whisper. A woman's voice. It was Yaoundé. He listened carefully. She was not alone. A man's voice responded. Low and serious. Ndemba's heart beat fast. He tried to sit up but couldn't. His body felt like wood, heavy and useless. He closed his eyes and stayed still, pretending to sleep, until the voices disappeared. In the morning he asked gently, "Who were you speaking to last night?" Yaoundé smiled calmly. "Ah, it was the gate man. There was a power cut and he wanted to know whether to turn on the generator." Ndemba nodded slowly. But inside his spirit trembled. He had built empires. But he was now weak like a leaf. There was only one person in the house who truly cared for Ndemba. Kona, the old housemaid. She had served him since his early days, when he only had a small house in Essos. Kona had known him before the fame, before the riches, before the big name. One afternoon, when Yaoundé had gone to town, Kona sneaked into his room and whispered, "Chief, forgive me for speaking. But I hear things, see things. Madam, she is not who you think she is." Ndemba's eyes opened wide. "What are you saying, Kona?" "She has visitors, sir. At night, a man comes through the back gate. She meets him near the kitchen. They speak in low tones. I fear they are planning something bad, sir." Ndemba's hands shook. "Why didn't you tell me before?" "Because I am afraid. I am just a servant. But I could not hold it anymore. I know something is wrong with your health, and I fear it is not natural. Ndemba nodded. Thank you, Kona. Be careful. Say nothing more to anyone. But the very next day, Kona disappeared. Her room was empty. Her bags gone. Her phone switched off. No goodbye. Ndemba asked Yaounde. Where is Kona? He shrugged. I think she said she wanted to travel to the village. But he knew. Kona didn't leave on her own. From that day on, Ndemba could no longer trust anyone. He began to wonder, was I poisoned? Was it slow? Am I being killed softly? But he had no proof. He asked for spiritual help. A traditional healer was called in secret. After a few chants, the old man said, Your sickness is not from nature. It is sent. The hand that feeds you also feeds your death. Ndemba's blood ran cold. The old man added, You must act fast, chief, or you will leave this world quietly, and no one will know your story. But Ndemba couldn't move. He couldn't even walk to the door. His strength was gone. He looked at Yaounde every day and wondered, was this the woman I trusted with my life? He remembered their wedding, the vows, the dances, the smile on her face, the way she looked into his eyes and said, I will love you forever. Now, all he saw in those same eyes was silence. One morning he asked for a pen and paper. With shaky hands, he began writing a will, but he could not finish it. His hands failed him. He kept trying day after day, but the paper remained unfinished. On the 5th night of trying, he told Yaounde, If anything happens to me, make sure my people bury me in the family land. She smiled softly. You will live, my husband. You are strong. But in her smile there was something missing. Love, warmth, truth. Ndemba closed his eyes. His chest was heavy. He had been a warrior in business, a lion in politics, a builder of empires. But now, lying on a soft bed in his big house, he felt more helpless than a child. His time was near. And what he didn't know was that his burial had already been planned, but not by his family, not by his people. It was planned in secret, by the one person he trusted most. When a house speaks, it speaks in silence, and only the wise hear it. The house of Chief Ndemba was no ordinary house. It was a mansion made of marble, glass, and pride. All gates, armed guards, CCTV everywhere. Rooms filled with gold frames, animal carvings, imported chairs, and curtains that kissed the floor. But even in all this beauty, the walls began to whisper, not with words, but with feelings, with shadows, with cold winds that had no source. After the old housemaid Kona disappeared, everything changed. The staff walked slowly, the air felt heavy, and Chief Ndemba grew weaker by the hour. It was 2 weeks since Kona left. One night, just before midnight, the night guard named Ivo was doing his usual walk around the compound. He moved from the front gate to the garden, past the swimming pool, and toward the servants' quarters. That's when he saw it. A man, tall, slim, wearing all black, slipped in through the back fence. Ivo froze. He almost shouted, but the man gave a signal. Secret signal. Then came something more shocking. Madame Yaounde walked out from the back of the house with a scarf over her head. She didn't look scared. She didn't ask, "Who is there?" She walked straight to the man. They talked, roughly, like they had done it many times before. Ivo ducked behind the water tank, heart racing. He pulled out his phone and started recording, but just then, something hit him from behind. He woke up the next morning inside the storeroom. His head was bleeding. His phone was gone. When he asked the other guard, they said, "We didn't see anything. Maybe you fainted." But Ivo knew. He knew he had seen the truth the house was hiding. Inside the mansion, Chief Ndemba had been moved to a smaller room on the ground floor. He was too weak to climb stairs. His face was thin now, his sunken, voice broken. One morning, he tried to open a drawer beside his bed to get his rosary, but it was locked. Strange. It was never locked before. When he asked Yaounde about it, she smiled and said, Maybe the carpenter came and fixed something. But he could tell she was lying. That same day he asked the cook, Auntie Nanga, for porridge. Later, he found out Yaounde had told her not to cook anymore, only to bring the food she prepared herself. Ndemba stopped eating. He began hiding the food under his pillow. At night rats came to eat it. Some died. 2 rats, dead with foam in their mouths. His heart cried. He knew. He was being killed slowly. The return of the dream. One night, Ndemba had a powerful dream. He was walking in a forest, weak and tired. The trees had no leaves. The sky was red. Then he saw his late mother, standing by a river. She said, "Ndemba, my son, you are in danger. Wake up. The woman you love is digging your grave." He tried to speak, but no words came out. Then he saw his house, with black smoke rising from the roof. The smoke formed a face. It was Yaounde's face, smiling. He woke up in sweat, chest heavy, eyes full of tears. He looked at the woman lying beside him, her back turned. He whispered, "Yaounde, why are you doing this to me?" But she did not reply. A week later, Ndemba's cousin Bala came to visit. He was a spiritual man close to the ancestors. As he entered the house, he said, "There's a dark spirit here. Something is wrong." He went to sit with Ndemba. When he saw the chief's condition, he was shocked. "You look like you've been drained," he said. Bala wanted to take him to the village for cleansing, but Yaounde refused. "He is not fit to travel," she said. That night, Bala stayed in the guest room. Around 2 a.m. he heard drums, low and distant. He stepped outside to check and saw the back door open. Strange. The wind carried voices to his ears. Chant. "Yana, Yana. Return no more." Bala ran back inside, locked the door and began praying. By morning he was gone. No note, no goodbye. When Ndemba asked, Yaounde said, "He left early. He said he had something urgent in Douala." But no one saw Mbala again. Not that day. Not the next. He had vanished. One of the younger maids, Elsie, loved and respected the chief. She noticed his sadness, his fear. One afternoon, as she was cleaning, she knocked over a flower vase in the hallway. Inside, tucked deep inside the base, was a folded paper. She opened it and saw a note, written in shaky handwriting. "If you find this, know that I am not safe. My wife is not what she seems. She plans to bury me in secret. Tell my people." Signed, Ndemba. Elsie froze. She heard footsteps coming. Quickly, she hid the note in her pocket and kept cleaning. That evening, she left the house and never came back. But before she disappeared, she gave the note to someone important, Chief Nsam, Ndemba's elder from the village. That note would later change everything. Weeks passed. No visitors came. No calls were allowed. Ndemba's phones were gone. Only Yaounde and 2 strange nurses cared for him now. Sometimes he saw them crush tablets and stir his drinks. Other times he pretended to sleep and heard them say, "The burial ground is ready. All we need is the silence." Ndemba tried to shout. He tried to fight. He tried to crawl. But his body was no longer his. Then came the day. The day he took his last breath. It was a rainy night. Yaounde sat beside him. She touched his face, looked into his tired eyes and said, "You had it all. But you never gave me what I wanted most, freedom." Ndemba's eyes closed. Tear fell from the corner. His final breath was soft, like a whisper. By morning he was gone. But no one in the city knew. No announcement. No crying. No traditional rites. Only whispers. And then, the house went quiet. But the whispers would soon reach the village. The truth would rise. And the secret burial would shake the land. Some people bury bodies. Others bury truths. But the earth hears everything. Chief Ndemba was dead. But no one in the family knew. No neighbor. No elder. No traditional leader. Only Yaounde and the 2 silent nurses knew. It was still raining when he died. The sky cried more than the wife who shared his bed. Instead of mourning, Yaoundé walked calmly to the window, opened it wide and took a deep breath. "It is finished," she whispered. "Now I can begin my life." By sunrise, Yaoundé made a phone call. It wasn't to Ndemba's family. It wasn't to any doctor. It was to the man from the shadows, the same one who used to meet her at night near the back gate. His name was Tambo. Some said he was a herbalist. Others called him a charmer. But to Yaoundé, he was her secret and her savior. "It is done," she told him. He replied, "Good. I'm on my way. We bury tonight. No mourning cloth. No drumbeat. No announcement. In African tradition, when a chief dies, the village must know. There are cries, drums, gunshots, and fires lit to guide his spirit. But for Ndemba, there was nothing. Yaoundé refused to let anyone in. The staff were told to go home for fumigation. The gates were locked. The cameras were turned off. She placed Ndemba's body, still warm, in a bag, wrapped him in a blue royal cloth, and sprayed his face with perfume. No coffin. No prayer. No goodbye. That night, as the rain fell quietly, Tambo arrived with 2 men, strong and quiet. They dug a hole behind the estate, near the mango trees. Deep and wide. Ndemba was lowered in. The earth didn't cry. But the trees did. The wind howled. The leaves shook. Even the dogs barked, as if something was wrong. When the body was covered, Tambo poured libation, not to honor the dead but to seal the silence. He whispered words in a tongue even Yaoundé didn't understand. Then he looked at her and said, "No one will know, unless the earth speaks." The next day, Ndemba's personal assistant, Mr. Luma, called to check in. Yaoundé answered, cheerful as ever, "Oh, the chief is fine. He traveled last night to the village for some rest." "That's strange," Luma replied. "He didn't mention it to me. When is he coming back?" "He said not to disturb him. He needs quiet time." She ended the call and smiled. The first lie had been told. More would follow. She began answering messages on his phone, pretending to be him. She posted an old photo of him online with the caption, "Spending time with nature in the village. No calls please." Everyone believed it, except the ancestors. At night, Yaoundé could no longer sleep. The air in the room felt heavy. She began hearing footsteps in the hallway, slow and dragging. She rushed out but no one was there. Lights flickered. Mirrors cracked. The mango tree behind the house lost its leaves overnight. Tambo told her, "It's just your mind. Don't be weak. You did what had to be done." But she felt it. Ndemba was not resting. 3 weeks later, Mbala, the cousin who had disappeared after his visit, came back, but not alone. He came with 2 elders from the village. They were angry and confused. "Where is the chief?" they demanded at the gate. Yaoundé smiled politely. "He is still in the village, praying with our spiritual fathers. He said he wants no disturbance." But they weren't fooled. Mbala stepped forward and pulled out a note. This was written by Ndemba before he died. He feared for his life. He said you would hide the truth. Yaoundé's face turned pale. "What are you saying? Are you accusing me?" "No," said the elder. "We are accusing your silence." Later that night, a bird flew into the house. Not a normal bird. A white owl, eyes glowing. It perched on Ndemba's chair and stared at Yaoundé. He screamed. She threw a book at it. But it didn't move. Suddenly, it let out a loud cry and flew out, leaving behind a single white feather. The guards swore they had never seen that kind of bird before. Tambo warned her. "You must be strong. Do not be shaken. The land only fears the living." But deep inside, Yaoundé began to fall apart. Her lover now spoke less. The house grew colder. The staff stopped smiling. Even her reflection in the mirror began to look like Ndemba's face. At 3 a.m., she woke up to hear soft chanting. The same words over and over. "Let the land speak. Let the land speak." She stepped outside and saw a shadow by the mango tree. She screamed. But when she turned on the lights, nothing was there. Just the tree. And the soil beneath it, slightly disturbed. She knew. She buried a powerful man in secret. But powerful men don't stay buried quietly. The village demands answers. The following week, a meeting was called in the village square. Men, women, elders, and youth gathered under the big iroko tree. Chief Nsam, holding the letter from Elsie, raised his voice. We must go to Yaoundé and bring back our son. If he is alive, we welcome him. If he is dead, we must bury him the right way. The crowd shouted in agreement. The ancestors had been disrespected. The land had been deceived. It was time to act. And so they came. A convoy of 5 cars left the village. Drummers, herbalists, elders. They wore red and white cloths, carried staffs, carried fire. They arrived at the mansion in Yaoundé. Gates were pushed open. Drums beat louder. We want to see the chief, they cried. Yaoundé stood at the top balcony, alone, dressed in white, eyes sunken, hair undone. And finally the lie ended. He is gone, she said softly. I buried him. But I did it with love. The crowd went silent. And then came the loudest cry from an old woman at the back. You buried our lion like a dog. You can bury a body, but you cannot bury the truth. Not when the earth begins to speak. The drums had stopped. The wind held its breath. The villagers stood in front of the big mango tree behind Ndemba's mansion, where the soil was freshly turned. Men carried shovels. Elders stood with staffs. The women sat, heads wrapped, eyes full of questions. Yaoundé stood alone, ill, silent, dressed in white. We must do this with respect, Chief Nsam said. This man was a chief, a voice, a lion in this land. The digging began. Shovel after shovel, deeper and deeper. Then suddenly thump, soft sound, then cloth, then a smell, then silence. They had found Ndemba's body. Wrapped in royal blue cloth, face turned sideways, a gold ring still on his finger. An elder dropped to his knees and began to cry. This is not how a chief should rest. The women began wailing. Yeah, what have we done to deserve this? A whole lion buried like a goat. Where were we when this evil happened? Yaoundé didn't say a word. She stood still, eyes locked on the body of the man she once called husband. One of the elders turned to her. You said you buried him with love. But where is the honor? Where is the drum? Where is the mourning cloth? Where is the voice of the ancestors? She looked down. Tears rolled down her cheek. I didn't know what to do. I panicked. No, the elder replied. You planned it. You hid it. But you forgot the dead speak. That evening, a traditional council was held inside the compound. A fire burned at the center. The elders sat in a circle. Yaoundé was made to kneel in the middle. Chief Nsam held up the letter that Ndemba wrote, the one Elsie found. He read it aloud. Every word, every fear, every tear. Then he looked at Yaoundé. We will ask only once. Speak the truth before the fire, or may the earth never remember your name. Yaoundé began to shake. Yes, I buried him in secret, she said. Why? She looked around. Because I was tired. I was forgotten. I was alone. I was his wife, but he only loved his business, his politics, his past. I wanted more. And I met someone who showed me attention. Gasps filled the air. Tambo? The elders asked. She nodded. He said I could have a better life if the chief was no more. So you poisoned him. She lowered her head. Yes, slowly. In his food. In his drink. Until he couldn't walk. Couldn't talk. One woman shouted from the back. And yet you sat beside him and wiped his face with love. I was scared, Yaoundé said through tears. I didn't want to lose everything. So I hid it. Suddenly, the fire in the middle rose higher, without wind or wood. A hush fell on the gathering. One of the elders stood. He is here, he said. Ndemba's spirit is not resting. He wants justice. Yaounde screamed. She saw a shadow pass behind the fire. Tall figure. Familiar. Strong. Ndemba. New. I'm sorry, she cried. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was just lonely. She fainted on the ground. The drums began to beat slowly. Justice had arrived. News spread across Yaoundé. Tambo the herbalist is missing. His shrine is empty. His people say he ran into the bush after hearing the drums from the chief's house. No one saw him again. But one hunter swore he saw a man in the forest, running barefoot, talking to himself and screaming. He's following me. The dead is following me. The villagers believed it was Ndemba's spirit chasing his betrayer. Elders from the village performed cleansing rituals in the house. They poured palm wine on the ground, slaughtered a white goat, and sang songs to guide Ndemba's spirit home. His body was taken in a grand procession to the village. This time there were drums. This time there were fires. This time the people wept. The lion was given his final rest, with honor. After the burial, Yaounde was taken to the traditional court. They did not kill her. They did not jail her. But they gave her a punishment worse than death. She was banished. She was stripped of all her wealth. All lands, cars, and businesses returned to Ndemba's first son. She was made to walk barefoot from Yaoundé to the village border, where no one would offer her water or rest. People pointed at her and said, "There goes the wife who buried a king like a thief." Some said she later ran mad. Others said she now begged for food. But no one saw her again. She had buried a body in secret. But the truth rose like the sun. Today in the village square, a statue of Chief Ndemba stands tall. Children are told his story, not just as a tale of betrayal, but as a warning. Never sleep beside a snake. Never ignore the whispers of your walls. And never forget, even in silence the truth will speak. After Chief Ndemba's body was reburied with honor in the village, peace returned, for everyone but one person, Yaounde. She walked away barefoot, stripped of her wealth and pride. People spat at her feet. Children threw sand at her. Old women turned their backs as she passed. She was no longer Madame Ndemba. She was now known as the woman who buried her husband in secret. But what the people did to her was nothing compared to what the ancestors were about to do. Yaounde found shelter in an abandoned house at the edge of a small village. It was dusty, dark, and cold. Rats squeaked in the walls. Lizards watched her from the ceiling. But it was better than sleeping in the street. The first night she dreamed of Ndemba. He was sitting in his chair just like he used to. But his face was different. His eyes were open wide. His skin pale. His voice deep. "You buried me like I was nothing," he said. "Now, feel what it means to be forgotten." She woke up screaming. She ran outside barefoot shouting, "Ndemba, forgive me." The villagers thought she had gone mad. Some threw stones at her. Others shut their doors. Yaounde had once been called the Pearl of Yaoundé. Men admired her. Women envied her. Her beauty was her power. But now, her hair began to fall out. Her skin turned pale. Her eyes sank deep. She looked in the mirror, and saw Ndemba's face staring back at her. She screamed and broke the mirror. But even the shards whispered, "You buried a king like a goat." One morning, Yaounde dressed in an old wrapper and walked far, through rivers, through bush, to a mountain shrine. There, she met an old woman known as Mama Luma, a priestess who spoke with spirits. Yaounde knelt before her, shaking. "Mama, I need help. I see him in my dreams. I hear him calling. Cannot eat. I cannot sleep." The old woman looked at her for a long time, then said, "The man you killed gave you shelter, love, name, and home. You threw it all into the ground. Now the ground is calling it back." Yaounde begged, "What must I do?" "You must confess to the spirit yourself, not just to people. You must kneel where you buried him, and speak." That same evening, Yaoundé returned to the mansion. The gates were locked. The land was quiet. The mango tree still stood tall. She crawled under the fence and knelt on the ground. She touched the soil where she once buried her husband in secret. "Ndemba," she whispered. "I was foolish. I let bitterness control me. I allowed a stranger to break our home. I was not strong. I was not loyal. I was not a wife. Forgive me, please." Suddenly the wind picked up. The mango leaves began to fall like rain. And then a whisper in the air. "The ancestors hear you, but they do not forget." That night, far away in her village, something strange happened. Her family compound caught fire, but the fire burned only her room. Nothing else. The elders said, "This is not a normal fire. This is a warning." Her parents disowned her. Her siblings refused to speak her name. She had brought shame to her bloodline. Yaoundé grew thinner. She no longer begged for food. She no longer asked for water. She only sat in silence, watching, waiting. One evening, she lay under a tree and closed her eyes. In her dream she saw a river. On the other side stood Ndemba, dressed in white, smiling sadly. "It's time," he said. "The pain you gave, you now understand. The peace you stole, you now seek. But not all journeys end in forgiveness." She reached out her hand. "Let me come with you," she said. But he shook his head. "Not yet." She woke up with tears in her eyes. Then she whispered, "Let the ancestors judge me, not the world." They found her body under the same mango tree. Face up, eyes closed, hands folded. No wounds. No sign of sickness. Only a feather on her chest. A white feather. Some say she died of shame. Others say Ndemba came to take her himself. But the elders say, the land had to speak. The truth had to rise. And the ancestors had to decide. Today his mansion is quiet, but not forgotten. Every year, the village performs a ceremony in his name. Young men are taught. Power is not only in muscles, but in honor. Young women are taught. Love is not a tool to use, but a bond to build. And all are reminded. If you sleep beside betrayal, you may never wake up. So when you walk the streets of Yaoundé, and you hear an old man whisper, "Have you heard of the wife who buried her husband in secret?" Know that it is not just a story. It is a warning, lesson, a truth that rose from the grave. Thank you for watching this powerful story. If this story touched your heart, please like and share it with friends and family. And don't forget to subscribe for more emotional African folktales.